Your phone is not listening to you. What it is doing is worse, and I can prove it in the next 10 minutes using nothing but settings that are already built into your iPhone. If you have ever said something out loud, never typed it anywhere, never searched for it, and then watched an ad for that exact thing appear the next day, you have a story like millions of other people. The explanation you have probably heard is that your microphone is secretly recording you and feeding that audio to advertisers. Apple, Google, and Meta have all denied this under oath, in congressional hearings, in court filings, and in public statements. And independent security researchers who have physically monitored phone network traffic for months at a time have never caught a phone secretly recording and uploading audio for advertising purposes. So if it is not the microphone, what is it? It is something quieter and more thorough. Your phone does not need to hear you talk about running shoes. It already knows you looked at a pair for 4 seconds longer than you should have. It knows what app you opened right after. It knows where you were standing. It knows what website you visited 2 days earlier that mentioned marathon training. None of that requires a single word to be spoken. It requires permissions. And those permissions are sitting on your phone right now, quietly switched on, most of them switched on by default the day you took the phone out of the box. I'm going to walk through every one of them, exactly where to find them and exactly what to change, using nothing except the settings Apple already gives you for free. Start with the single change that has more impact than everything else combined. It is called App Tracking Transparency, and Apple introduced it specifically to give you control over something called an advertising identifier. Every app on your phone is assigned a unique code tied to your device. That code by itself is meaningless, but when one app sees you browsing running shoes and reports that code to an advertising network, and a completely different app sees you looking at flights to Colorado and reports the same code, the advertising network now has both data points sitting in one file tied to one person, and that person is you. This is how two apps that have never spoken to each other, built by two companies that have never spoken to each other, end up building a single shared profile about your life. App tracking. Transparency is the feature that lets you shut that down at the source. Open settings, tap privacy and security, tap tracking. At the top, you will see a toggle labeled Allow Apps to Request to Track. Turn it off. With that single switch off, no app on your phone can ask you for tracking permission at all. They are blocked before the request even reaches you. I want to address the fear that usually comes up here because it stops a lot of people from making this change. Turning this off does not break the apps on your phone. It does not stop Instagram from loading. It does not stop your banking app from working. It does not stop your Maps app from giving you directions. What it stops is the invisible layer underneath those apps that follows you from one piece of software to another, building a profile you never agreed to and never saw. Now move to location, because this is the permission that reveals more about you than almost any other piece of data on your phone. Your location by itself at a single moment tells a company very little, but your location tracked continuously over weeks and months tells a company where you sleep, where you work, what doctor you visit, and how often, what pharmacy you use, whether you attend religious services, what political events you show up to, and what school your kids go to. That is not a guess. That is what location data reveals when it is collected over time. And it is exactly why it is one of the most valuable categories of data that advertising networks and data brokers buy and sell. Most people believe they already handled this because they remember tapping through a few prompts when they first set up their phone. What they do not realize is that those choices were made once, years ago, and have not been looked at since, while new apps have been added and old permissions have quietly stayed switched on. Go to Settings, then Privacy and Security, then Location Services. You will see every app that has ever asked for your location, and next to each one a label showing its current access level. There are 3 levels: Never, Ask Next Time, or When I Share, and Always. The one you need to hunt down is Always. An app set to Always is not just using your location while you have it open. It is tracking you in the background, while the app is closed, while your screen is off, potentially, while you have not opened it in weeks. Go through every single app on that list. Ask yourself honestly whether it needs to know where you are at all times or only while you are actively using it. A navigation app, a rideshare app, a food delivery app, and a weather app have a real case for location access while you are using them. Almost nothing else does. Social apps do not need it. Games do not need it. Shopping apps do not need it. News apps do not need it. Set every one of those to Never, and set the handful that genuinely need it to while using the app instead of Always. Scroll to the very bottom of that same Location Services page and tap System Services. This is a layer most people have never opened in their life because Apple buries it below every third-party app on the list. Inside, you will find a setting called Significant Locations, which is Apple's own system quietly logging every place you regularly go and storing that history on your device. Turn it off, You will also find location-based Apple ads, which is Apple itself, not a third party, using your location data to decide which ads to show you inside the App Store and Apple News. Turn that off as well. And unless you rely heavily on Apple Maps for real-time traffic rerouting, turn off routing in traffic too. Now to the permission that makes people the most uneasy, which is the microphone. I said at the start that there is no confirmed evidence of your phone secretly recording conversations to sell you ads, and that remains true. But there is a separate and well-documented problem, which is that a large number of apps on your phone were granted microphone access at some point for a legitimate reason, maybe a voice message feature, maybe a video call, and that access has simply stayed switched on ever since, whether the feature is still used or not. Go to Settings, Privacy and Security, Microphone. You will see a full list of every app that currently has permission to record audio. Go through it one at a time and ask a simple question for each one. Does this app have an actual current reason to access sound? A messaging app you use for voice notes? Yes. A video calling app? Yes. Your notes app if you record voice memos? Yes. A shopping app? A game? A news app? A social feed you scroll but never use for video? No. Turn those off. If one of them genuinely needs it in the future, it will ask you again, and you can say yes at that point with full knowledge of why. Then do the exact same walkthrough for camera using the exact same logic. If an app has no clear current reason to access your lens, revoke it. This takes about 2 minutes total and costs you nothing. Here's a feature Apple built that almost nobody has ever turned on, and it might be the most useful one on this entire list because it does not ask you to trust a setting menu. It shows you the receipts. It is called the App Privacy Report, and what it does is generate an actual log of every time an app accessed your location, your microphone, your camera, your contacts, or your photo library, along with every outside network domain that app contacted while it was doing it. Go to Settings, Privacy and Security, and scroll down until you see App Privacy Report. Tap it, then tap Turn on App Privacy Report. It will not show you anything the first time you open it because it needs several days to actually collect data. Set a reminder to come back in a week. When you do, you will see app by app exactly how many times each one reached into a sensitive permission and exactly which external domains it was talking to in the background, often advertising networks and analytics companies listed by name. This is the point where the whole idea stops being abstract. It is one thing to know in general that apps share data. It is a completely different feeling to open this report and see that a fitness app you used for 3 minutes contacted a dozen advertising domains in a single day. Once you have that report running, make it a habit, not a one-time check. Anything using a sensitive permission far more often than makes sense for how you actually use it deserves a second look, and probably a permission you should revoke. There are 3 more categories worth locking down, and they get skipped in almost every privacy video because they are less dramatic than the microphone, even though the risk is just as real. The first is contacts. Your contact list is not just your data. It is data about every person in it, people who never installed the app, never agreed to anything, and never knew their name, number, and email were being handed over. This is one of the primary ways social platforms build what are sometimes called shadow profiles, mapping your entire social circle by cross-referencing uploaded contact lists, whether or not those people are even on the platform yet. Go to Settings, Privacy and Security, Contacts, and turn off access for anything beyond your phone app and the messaging apps you actually use to communicate. The second is Photos. Go to Settings, Privacy and Security, Photos. Every app on that list can see your entire camera roll, which almost certainly includes photos with embedded location metadata, showing exactly where they were taken, screenshots of private conversations, pictures of documents, and anything else you have ever captured. Change every app that does not have a clear ongoing reason for full access from all photos to selected photos, or to none at all. The third is health data. If you use Apple Health, that single app can hold your heart rate history, your sleep patterns, your medications, and other deeply personal tracking data. Go to Settings, Privacy and Security, Health, and check which apps have been given access. Revoke anything you are not actively and currently using for a real health tracking purpose. Now for the part that almost every video like this skips entirely, because it is not about third-party apps at all, it is about Apple. Apple has genuinely built one of the stronger privacy reputations in the industry, and in a lot of areas that reputation is earned. But Apple is also a company that collects usage data from your device and runs its own advertising business inside the App Store and Apple News, and by default, some of your data is used to personalize what you see there. Go to Settings, Privacy and Security, and scroll down to Apple Advertising. Tap it and turn off personalized ads. This stops Apple itself from using your on-device activity to target you with ads inside its own apps. Then back out to Privacy and Security and tap Analytics and Improvements. Turn off Share iPhone Analytics, Share iCloud Analytics, and improve Siri and dictation. None of these affect how your phone functions day to day. All they do is stop a continuous stream of usage data, leaving your device in the background. If you want the short version to actually go do right now, here it is in order. Open Settings, Privacy and Security, Tracking, and switch off Allow Apps to Request to Track. That single toggle is the highest impact change on this entire list because it cuts off cross-app advertising tracking at the root. Next, go into Location Services and change every app set to Always down to While Using or Never. Then scroll into System Services and turn off significant locations and location-based Apple ads. Next, go through microphone and camera permissions, one app at a time, and remove access from anything without a genuine current reason to use them. Turn on the App Privacy Report and put a reminder in your calendar to actually check it in a week because the setting only matters if you look at what it collects. Tighten contacts and photos access down to the handful of apps that truly need them. And finally, inside Apple's own settings, turn off personalized ads and the analytics sharing toggles. Every change on this list is reversible in under 30 seconds if you ever need an app to work differently. None of them require you to delete an app, sign out of anything, or lose a feature you actually use. What they do is close the gap between what your phone is quietly allowed to do and what you actually intended to allow when you first opened these apps years ago. Most people who go through this list front to back do not notice a single difference in how their phone behaves. What changes is what is happening behind the screen while they are not looking. Your phone already has the tools to stop most of this. Nobody ever handed you the manual for where they are. Now you have it.